So, okay. So my plop. So the popcorn. Sorry. My popcorn of the week is that for the first time in my employed life, I'm going to get 20 days of paid leave. That is the summer vacations. And the flopcorn of my week is that I realized I am experiencing adult baldness and I might get bald very soon.
Well, we can always hope for the best. It might not turn out that way, so fingers crossed. So my popcorn of the week is that I had very good pasta and avocado sandwich. Like on my way from office, I was dreading the thought of having to cook. So I stopped at a cafe and had a very good early dinner. And my popcorn of the week is that I was watching a football match and I was so tired after work that I fell asleep during halftime. So that sums up my popcorn and flopcorn.
So, welcome to a new episode of Do Chai No Sugar. Today, we are talking everything AI, our experiences, how we started using AI, and what is our everyday experience with it. Do you want to start?
Yeah. So maybe I think we can start with our first encounter with AI, or when the first time we heard about this new technology. In my case, it was in a cold January day in 2023. And of all the places where I could be, I was in Nagaland on a work assignment. And in a remote village there, I came across someone who had gone there from Bangalore to give some training to the farmers related to sustainable agriculture. In hindsight, it makes sense that I heard it from a person who had come from Bangalore about AI. So he was talking about this thing around a fireplace in a cold winter evening, going to have dinner, and this person talks about this new technology that's going to revolutionize everything, where work will be supplemented by AI, and all we had to do was to just give a command. And that time, it was so remote and something that probably my mind had not conceived. So I thought, how is it going to ever affect us? And now, just 3 years later, it's a completely different story. Maybe you can also share about your first tryst with AI.
Yeah, so I think in early 2023, where a lot of people around us were talking about it. I think it was being advertised, it was being heavily pushed through all mediums possible. I honestly did not take it seriously. I thought, okay, it is one of the technologies that is coming up. It is something that will eventually catch up. Direct interaction with it happened when the firm that I was working with, that we discussed in the last episode, it started its own internal AI. It partnered with OpenAI and then started
An in-house kind of
in-house thing
technology.
so that our data is private, it is not made public. And again, the nature of work that we discussed in the last episode, a lot of our work was to generate new knowledge, which was mostly in the written form. So a lot of brainstorming in how to create data, present data was part of my job. And things that we used to take a lot of time to do was going to be made easier through this platform. So we were heavily asked to use this in all our tasks. We were being trained. There were in-house courses that we were supposed to take, complete a few hours of training mandatorily so that we can maximize our usage. So that is when I think it was in mid 2023 when this was made mandatory for all employees of the firm. And that is when we then regularly started to use it during meetings to refine presentations, make visuals for our presentations, and all of that. Yeah, that was also
Yeah,
me
to
creating it.
continue the train of thought that you started, I guess nothing much has changed in terms of the scope of work. It's just the volume at which we are using AI has probably intensified. Like you said, your office pushed workers to use AI as aggressively as possible. So I guess nowadays you must have also heard or read about it in the news articles how the use of AI is kind of linked to your performance as well. So that is how intertwined or how aggressively the corporates are pushing for AI use. That is one aspect of how you cannot really escape that kind of ecosystem because the orders are coming from up above about how you need to use them for your day-to-day activities. These days, that's like a real concern or a real worry that we are seeing how there are these massive layoffs that are happening as a result of how companies are redirecting their resources or their investments towards AI. And back then, I don't know if there was this concern about the AIs or the agents taking over your work. People around me, I see them, or like, you are discussing something about your work, and then uh, there's one aspect you'd be like, oh, there's like, if I say that they're still making mistakes, and like, there's AI, there's still like a second pair of human eyes that needs to check whatever they have
Yeah.
generated because they tend to hallucinate. The AIs tend to hallucinate, and then the response would be like, "Oh, at least you'll still be able to keep your job." So a casual conversation having that undertone of how unstable your job has become, or a new upgrade, like a model upgrade away from like losing your job, or one corporate decision away from your entire world turning upside down. But
Yeah, sorry. Even with all the AI, I think the volume of work has not decreased for employees, for human employees. There is this ad, I think, of KitKat or Five Star. Have you come across it?
no,
No, it says
what is it
that,
about?
yeah, the same work that you were expected to do in 2 hours, now you're expected to do in 10 minutes, 15 minutes, because
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
assumed that you will use AI and, things will be ready-made and you may just have to rearrange it or go through it, glance through it, and
Yeah.
you will be
I
done.
mean, one of the languages that we see floating around in corporate spaces is how AI is supposed to improve your efficiency. So that efficiency at some point makes you replaceable. But that is always lurking out there. And like the thing is, initially, I remember after the first time I heard about AI in Nagaland, and then back at my newsroom or in like the media, use of AI was still considered sinful. Like you would not dare produce AI articles, or it was something that was looked down upon. You're not creative enough, which is why you have to rely on
Yeah.
technology and stuff like that. But apart from that, I think as somebody who has to use AI at workplace, and you are instructed to, like, you're encouraged to use it. The first time I started using, I would be like, oh my God, my one command is using or utilizing so much water somewhere, or, the whole conversation around data center and use of clean water. But I think the way that this kind of conversations are completely absent, and there's nobody who really, I mean, I'm sure somebody cares, but there are people who are really getting affected in India itself when there is so much push towards building new data centers. But at a macro level, there is absolutely like no conversation around all these natural resources that are being utilized. So
Hold on
you
to that
tend
thought.
to.
There was another news recently. I don't know. I came across it. I don't know how much of it is true, but I think a very big multinational firm rehired a couple of people after, yeah, so after they were laid off. thinking that
Yeah.
AI would be able to do their work.
I
And
mean, no, it
so,
is able to do it. It's just that AI does not come cheap. So the cost of utilizing AI was turning out to be much more than keeping human beings to do the same amount of work.
yeah, but I
So,
think
which is why
also
they had to
there was an
retract.
issue with verifying the work that they were doing. I mean,
No, the scope for error is always there. Human has to do a final review or a final check.
and
We
then
haven't.
the point about, how the use of AI is perceived in different fields. Like in tech fields, it is usually obviously encouraged, but at the same time, in creative fields, it is looked down upon. It is seen as you are not living up to the standard of creating things, which is what
Yeah, yeah.
expected out of your job description. But very funnily enough, I have recently come across something on Instagram which said that all news channels, visual media, use highly AI created videos to dramatize news events. Characters that are, that is the background of all the news events are so
Yeah.
heavily AI generated and unnecessary also. So I think,
True.
where do you draw the line on how much or who can really use it? Again, going back to the point where you said that we were expected to use it in our professional fronts to make life easier, to make work easier, maybe to shorten the time we spend in front of our computers. But also, if you've noticed the way these are being marketed, for example, how Gemini is being marketed and very heavily marketed, that is, while starting a new business completely from scratch, or how do you use certain ingredients to make a certain dish, with your available ingredients. So that is forcing people to, even if they are not going to actually follow the result, they're still going to try. And
I mean,
what the future plans are for this, that okay, how are people going to keep using it when it's not free anymore?
it's making them so heavily dependent on AI. Like we saw that I think around last year when Airtel rolled out 1 year of free perplexity. That's supposed to be like you will be able to access very different models, different AI models to do your work. So you're just limited to ChatGPT, but like so many other models as well. And once it's like free geo data that it rolled out, creating this generation that are addicted to their cell phones. So it's about creating that dependency on a certain form of technology, I guess. I mean, of course, ours is we are not experts to say how this is being done or what a thought process or psychological aspects to it. But on a day-to-day basis, we have seen how our lives has changed because of AI. And even asking for a cafe recommendation, I would probably look up Gemini or ChatGPT or Claude or whatever it is, something that even 2 years ago was completely unimaginable. We would never have thought that we would give away that agency and autonomy that we have of choice to somebody else. These are still like the comfortable parts of using AI. But I mentioned before, I have been like reading Substack articles, like devouring them. And there somehow, I don't know how I ended up in the tech part of Substack. So it's not just technology that they talk about, but also the human cost of that technology. And there was this brilliant article by writer called Jasmine Sung, and she contributed to an article in the NYT. And I don't remember the title exactly, but it's like AI leading to the creation of a permanent underclass, which is basically about how it creates this section of people who would eventually like lose their jobs to AI. And rich people, the rich section that are benefited because of AI and the money that comes out of it. And right now, one of the common things that we are seeing happen in India is how people who are training the robots or generating data to be fed for manual work. And it's just terrifying. Like, imagine India having to, lose all the people who are in the manufacturing factories, having to lose their jobs to AI. And the fact is that they are the ones who are training the robots for that task. It's just surreal, dystopian to think about it. And also, one of the arguments that is made in that article is how there are no laws, nothing from the government to create the safety net for people who will be affected. But she mentioned that China has a law that prevents or cushions people from losing their job because of technology. And she says in context of US how it's absent, but in India as well, I don't know how things are going to turn out in a few decades or few
Right
years.
now, I think India or the Indian economy is hugely benefiting from it because these companies are heavily investing. So, not in the interest of Indian economy to
Not
lawfully,
stop, not stop, but of course, like to think about the vast
not a
majority of people.
rights-based approach till the economy keeps benefiting from it. It's not going to
Mm.
be a rights-based
I
approach.
guess the title that she wrote for the US context still holds that it will create a permanent underclass. But what I mentioned is still at a very macro level. It's CEOs or company owners, corporates taking all these big decisions. But you are witnessing or you are exposed to how those macro decisions affect in a micro level. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
So, as you know, I mostly work with students, children who are very impressionable. I deal with them on an everyday basis. And I have consistently realized that, okay, most of these children come from double income households where parents are mostly busy and they're not able to give time. So, that idea that, okay, when there is a home assignment, when you ask children to do something at home on their own, something as basic as, okay, I'll give you an inside question. A student is expected to read the chapter or read a certain section of the chapter and then attempt a question. But uh, yeah, I don't think children have the patience to do that anymore. Or the parents back home have the patience to sit with the child and make them do it. So it's easier for children to simply pick up a phone and chat GPT it and write the answers. And it is very easy for the teacher to actually read the answer and figure if it is AI or the child has actually tried to write it. And for educators to understand how it negatively impacts the child's growth is very painful to see, because without an external help like AI, a child is can be very creative. A child can think in 10 million ways to solve a problem, but then the AI makes you think in a very linear manner, and all the children are just going to reproduce what they see around them. So that um, diminishes, that stops critical thinking, which our education system is vehemently trying to um, promote, right? Our examination systems are now being redesigned to promote critical thinking, but the environment around us, now this relates to the need for laws in this sector, that our children, how our children using technology, using AI to study, do their work beyond classrooms. Now, again, the school system also kind of promotes the use of AI by, we have smart classrooms today in almost all schools. We have AI or one other subject as core subjects of CBSE. So students are also taught to use these tools, but at the same time, they are not taught how to use this ethically or how to use how much. So children go just, they use it for very random things, and there is currently no way to guide that or limit that in any manner. So it's really alarming. The students are uh, very smart in saying that, okay, we train our AI to only answer according to the NCERT textbook. We upload these chapters, and in case we find that the language is too AI-like, we also ask it to humanize it, to write it in a class 12 students' POV. So I mean, I don't know, it may be smart in many ways, but does it limit the child's imagination? It is something that, again, I don't know, as an educator, I try to do that in my classroom, but I don't know how one is expected to handle that at a macro level. It is
I
scary.
mean, one of the very point that you mentioned about how whether it is limiting the creativity of students, it's one of the criticisms of against AI that when you use it, even somebody who is pretty bad at something, like say for example drawing, and AI has been able to remove or obliterate that difficult stage of learning something where you struggle and you experience the plateau. Like initially, your learning curve might be very steep, and then you experience the plateau, and then another shift. So that whole exercise or that the difficulty that you encounter while learning something, that has been taken away or it has been eliminated by AI, and everybody ends up becoming an expert. That changes or alters the way human beings have been evolving, I guess, in life for centuries till now. So it's just a radical change that I guess nobody saw it coming, or probably nobody knows how it's going to proceed. You were talking about education. Recently, I came across this article where universities in China, they have removed around 12,000 obsolete courses, and a lot of them are unfortunately humanities and language courses.
On that note, actually, I also have this um, not very nice take on how people use AI to generate texts, maybe captions or reports or write messages, in general, uh, or to be able to write in correct English when you know that probably that's something that they're not able to do on their own, a genuinely. And when people throw shade on that, how you are able to recognize from, say, the usage of words or the tone of that line. I think that is slightly
Snobbish.
snobbish, yes. Yeah, which is not nice. But at the same time, I'm also divided about it sometimes.
It's just that, like, because there is AI, you don't want to improve on that weakness of yours. You would be like, there's always AI to handle it. Why do I need to work on it? So
Yeah.
the room for improvement
Why
just
do I want
disappears.
to use two brain cells when I have
Yeah, yeah.
free AI? Of course, but at
Uh,
the same time, when people throw shade at, okay, you used AI to, write this, or you've used AI to do this or that, and oh, that is so morally wrong and environmentally wrong, and this, that. I feel that is, a very, uh, you are riding on a high horse here. Yes.
Also, like, one thing I last year at some point I attended this session. Like I went to the Bangalore Literature Festival, and then there were a few sessions around AI. So one of the important like information that I got to know was like an American journalist made this distinction about different kinds of AI. Like I'm sure a lot of people know about it. AIs that we use for our daily work, it's mostly like LLMs, like large language models, and not proper AI. So that's why these LLMs are called generative AI, because it applies for very general kind of work like editing or analysis, summarizing certain things or analyzing certain documents. But the point that I remember that journalist making was that AI can be so incredibly helpful or like path breaking for sectors like
Health.
say medicine or space technology. So there are AIs that are specific to certain sectors. So that is where, as a journalist, like she was talking about the moral implications of using AI. So she said that those sectors they'll benefit immensely. But for the day-to-day use like we do and things like that, she was like, even if you take it away, it just increases the requirement of your brain cells to be exercised more. It does not really change things miraculously.
But
Like,
yeah, but
of
that is
course,
something.
like the corporate aspect of like cost cutting, like you're able to do more things in a limited period of time. So that is human profit and greed and all those things coming in. But in terms of like radical fundamental changes to human beings, it can be, you know, substituted, or it can be,
But
it's
using
not
those two
completely.
brain cells are so vital for humankind because as much as you exercise your brain, that is how
Mhm.
intelligent you get. And the, like we discussed, the fact that a generation has been trained not to use those two brain cells is
Mhm.
going to make it completely redundant, like your brain
Like,
cells.
I remember like a very young colleague at my workplace who asked this very important question. So it's like, if AI is going to replace all of us, then how will the economy operate? Because people won't be making money. So who will have the spending power? How is the money going to keep on flowing in the market? And I was completely stunned. I was like, that's such a interesting and important question. So that is something that Jasmine Sang in her article answers. So she says that, if the concentration of wealth gets limited among few people, few billionaires, they obviously have purchasing power, but their requirement is not that much for the money to keep moving. They will have limited needs. So eventually, the intervention of a structural or institutional force at some point might be necessary just to
Yeah,
keep the
it's like
basic demand and supply going.
yeah, a couple of decades back when machines replaced human labor, there was a general fear among people of, the physical working class. They had this insecurity that all of them are going to get replaced. Now that same insecurity is looming over,
Like,
people,
it's like blue collar.
yeah,
Back
white
then it
collar
was blue
jobs.
collar, now
People
it's white
use
collar jobs.
brains thinking
Mm.
that, oh, this is like
Yeah,
irreplaceable because this is human brain. And
yeah,
yeah, I think eventually it is going to come for everybody. So that classification that, oh, we have elite jobs is soon
yeah.
going to get obsolete. Yeah, but
True.
there is again, a huge section of people who are completely oblivious to these debates and these uh,
Worries and
worries,
concerns.
these moral dilemmas, and they're very happily in their own world generating photos, videos. Mostly, I think, if I'm not wrong, boomers, Gen X, older
Yeah.
people who use this in their, daily life for convenience. At the same time, there is a certain sentimental value, a lot of it coming from, these photos that people generate of
Yeah.
their loved ones who have passed away, maybe, or
Like, yeah, like my mother, she shared picture of her great grandmother, like a digitally enhanced picture, which was shared in her family group, like her cousins group. So, but she has absolutely no idea how much water that picture
right,
consumed.
exactly, and probably our food cycle getting affected, and
Yeah,
and from time to time we have these uh, trends also to make photos of a certain kind. Like there were
yeah,
Japan
yeah.
trends, and then the Cannes,
Movies?
the Cannes movie festival. So people were generating their looks and posting
Oh
on
yeah.
social media as if it has any significance. Like, why do you want to? I mean, to each their own. Great for you.
Mhm.
Happy
Yeah.
for them. But
Mhm.
yeah, so I think that was a marketing gimmick, and it shows that marketing works, and people are picking up on that. Now, everything new, everything aspirational, people want to create, even if it is
Mhm.
through generative AI.
Yeah.
Earlier people used to take that much effort to probably like do makeup and create looks, right?
Mhm.
Go source outfits and maybe get photographed in a certain
Yeah.
way, but now you have generative AI to your rescue.
And
So,
a lot of it is like so much marketing and the advertising and the push to use it.
there was a time in between where the comment section would always be like, is this AI? Is this AI? And for the rest of our lives, we are going to be like, is this AI?
Yeah, I mean, I personally, I love watching animal videos, and there are certain videos where you realize that it's AI generated, and you just feel that sense of despair, and the high that you experienced few seconds ago is just gone, and you have that skepticism embedded in you for rest of your life in some way or the other, I guess. Rewired the way you think and perceive.
Imagine those Japanese artists, I feel so bad for them.
Yeah, I mean, like it's such a gray area. It is still at a nascent stage. Like you don't know. Like there are articles where I remember people from the tech industry saying that if there is any any aspect of AI that is not good, inaccurate, or these days we use the term hallucination. AI is hallucinating. So that person is like, it's just a matter of few models before that lack or that weakness is gone, that they improve on it. So if your work remotely has something to do with like screens or virtual stuff, consider it replaceable. So
Yeah.
it was, I mean, so you start questioning or thinking what aspect of the modern world is left untouched. Like our generation, like you said, there is another generation like Gen X or boomers who don't really feel the use of AI or need the use of AI in their everyday life. But there are all these smart gadgets that like TV or fridge or even
AC.
AC. Like they'll just say a command and then it starts working, which at the end of the day is AI. I don't know if scary is the right word, but a very unpredictable future ahead of us. And given that
For our
we are
coming
not,
generation.
yeah, more for our coming generations. Like, and given that we are not experts, and even like I said, if the NYT article had people saying that, you know, the median person is going to be affected, but we have no idea what to do about it, that is concerning. So I guess we have nothing to add. It's just our concerns that we are just putting out
Looming
in
over
the,
moral
yeah.
dilemmas. On that note, how many other people are concerned about their jobs, about using the remaining brain cells
I
for
mean, like 10 years, no, 20 years ago, when we first started using our cell phones, we never expected it to be a thing that it's the last thing
the
that we
entire
see
day
before
today?
going to bed and the first thing that we see after waking up. So God knows what AI is going to be like.
The next 20 years, it's hopefully going to transform for the good.
Yeah.
And let's see where it takes us.
Yes.
So
Yes.
that is why humanity is not obsolete. I think humanities is that moral compass that keeps
Mm.
tech in check. On that
Yeah.
note, let's see where it takes us.
This is Monami.
This is Chandana. Hope you liked today's episode.
See you in the next episode.